Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk to you about revenue management and our journey over the last 12 to 18 months. But I want to start off by thanking Mews for setting up today, this conference, and actually more widely thank Mews because we have, essentially as a company, we launched together with Mews customers. Mews was our first integration, and it's been an amazing journey so far. And I want to thank them not only for building the solution that they built, but also for building up an ecosystem of just amazing people. I think everybody that we've come across within the Mews family has been some of the most forward-thinking hotels and hotels that are trying to do things differently. So I think it feels a bit like being welcomed into a new family for us. So thank you everybody for that, and thank you Mews. See if this works. So what we want to do is something incredibly counterintuitive, because revenue management sounds, and to most people, is one of the most boring things out there, let's be honest. But we think that we can do something a little bit more fun with revenue management, and we actually think it's something that should be used much more widely. We are not from the hospitality industry. We are a company which has come from tech and science primarily. So the last 12 months have been a crazy journey of learning about the hospitality industry and seeing where we can take some of the things that we know and do very well and apply them to hospitality and make them relevant. So let's start with revenue management and what it is at core. We all kind of know this, right? But this is why revenue management is relevant to hotels, and why what airlines and hotels have been doing over the last 20 years in revenue management is much more widely applicable. It's basically the difference between price and value. And we all instinctively know this when we are haggling or when we need something badly. So the few times when I've planned my trips, or actually the majority of times when I've planned my travels badly and I arrive somewhere and I find that all the hotels are fully booked. I was once in Stockholm, arrived, as I always do, look for a hotel from the airport, and discovered, I don't know how this happened, but literally every single room had been taken in Stockholm. So I ended up staying for the first time since I was 17, 18 in a gym-smelling hostel. There are many nice hostels. This was not one of them. Staying in a terrible place in the middle of Stockholm. So we all instinctively know that there's a big difference between value and price, both as sellers and as consumers. But you might think in the two most advanced industries in the world, airlines and hospitality, that this has been solved, right? Well, what drew us to this industry is that it hasn't been solved at all, which is kind of crazy. So 30 to 50% of properties globally have a revenue manager, even though having a revenue manager will add 20% plus to your top line revenue. Simply by saying, there are some times when I'm at 50% occupancy and other times when I'm at 100%, there should be a difference in price, right? So there's a huge discrepancy there in terms of the value that you get and how many people actually use this. And secondly, which is even more crazy, these revenue managers, they don't really have a solution, the majority of them. So 90% of properties globally, and that's 185,000 properties, don't have a solution for doing their pricing. They're doing it manually. And they are leaving a lot of money on the table. And that's something that we are interested in solving and hopefully doing some work on improving. So the question then becomes, why is it so hard? Why is there no solution out there? Why aren't these guys using something which makes sense? Well, it turns out that it's really, really hard to do revenue management. So to all of you who are doing it out there, kudos, because this is something that our very, very smart scientists have been working for 12 months to come up with a good solution for, and we're only at the beginning of that journey. So the reason it's hard is, start to think about 365 days into the future. Now think about 5 different room types. Now think about different length of stay, different number of people in a group, all of which amount to hundreds of thousands of pricing decisions, which should be taken every year if you want to do it right. Now, a metric which we should be using in the hospitality industry is, how many price changes did we make last month? I know we only have like 5 hotels in the room, but how many of those hotels can say that one of their core metrics is, how many price changes did we do last month? Because that should be the right metric here. So the 90% who don't have a solution out there, it's probably more than 90, so 95%. What do they use at the moment? They will use something like this. This is a German, beautiful, color-coded revenue management spreadsheet, which is essentially copying things in. And anybody who has worked with as a GM or an RM in the hospitality industry will know that this is essentially a pickup analysis where you're saying, for a similar period, last year or last month, X number of days away from check-in, I would have an occupancy of 50. And I'm now slightly behind, so I should do something. Or I'm now slightly ahead, so I should do something. The crazy thing about this is that this is not forecasting. It's essentially like driving to work and not forecasting, not letting Google Maps forecast when you will arrive there. Instead, you're saying, it took me 3 minutes yesterday to reach this place. And today it took me 2 minutes. It hasn't actually done any real maths on where you will end up. So they will combine these spreadsheets, and they will then do a few different other things. So rate shopping is one of them. And it's obviously important to know where your competition is and what they're doing. But they might have a completely different cost structure to you. They might have a very different demand set. They might have a very different customer set. All of which means that it's very hard to understand who your competition is and who you should be looking at. So studies out there have shown that 55% of the hotels which are in another hotel's comp set are not actually in their comp set, if that makes sense. So you're kind of picking other properties for your comp set, and they don't pick you, which makes no sense. The few other things that you would do is you would do rate codes and segments, and you would do all these crazy things. But there is a smarter way of doing this, and if hotels out there wanted to build this capacity in-house, what we've learned is they would have to do a couple of things, and I'll show you what they are briefly. I'm not going to bore you too much. But what you would have to do is you would have to understand for each individual room and each individual night what the forecast is for that. And that means combining, is it a Monday? Is it end of the month? Is it July? What have the last 10 bookings looked like? All of these need to be blended in to create the forecast, which is really, really hard. And until you have the forecast, you don't really know what you're optimizing for. Now, the second thing you have to do, which again is pretty hard, is you have to understand what the price sensitivity is. And these charts look super complex, and I'm not going to try to explain them, but basically what they're saying is, if you increase the price, you will sell less, right? So you can sell anything for 50 cents, and you can sell tons, but as soon as you're selling something for 2,000, you can't sell very many, which basically means that your RevPAR always has a peak. And that's something that very, very, very few hotels are actually looking at, and that you can do, where you can actually say, okay, forget pickup, forget occupancy, what are my customers willing to pay? And that's something that can be analyzed. It's just really, really hard. You have to look at different price points and see what demand they generated. So, in summary, for you to do revenue management in what we think is a smarter way, you would need all of these different things, and you would need to build them in-house, which is pretty hard. Or you can partner with somebody, and we think that we're building something which is pretty interesting in this space. We're trying to take all of that heavy science and pull it into a user interface which is actually workable and not too complicated, where we say, here is what the price sensitivity is for this individual night and this individual room. Here's what the forecast is. Here's what we base them on. And here are the price suggestions that we give you. Few cool things that we can do with having all the data that Mews kindly give us through their API, which we have been killing over the last 2 weeks. Thank you, Jan, wherever you are, for allowing us to continue. A few cool things that we can do is we can give you those metrics. We can say to you, how many times did you change the price over the last month? Has that improved? Are you becoming smarter about changing your prices? Are you changing your prices more frequently? And how much money have you made the property by changing prices? And that's something which we should be looking at every every week, right? Every day. And if we're a revenue manager, that would be the metric that we should be showing to the GM. And we should be saying, here's 15,000 extra euros from last month alone. Can I take a holiday now, please? Or something similar. So briefly who we are. I haven't put myself up here because I'm just the measly commercial CEO. The really important people here, some of which are in the audience. Archer is in the audience up there back. Lucas as well, who is doing our customer success. You can speak to all those guys later. John Paul Clark has built most of the science. So he's an American academic who we're basing most of the stuff on. And then some other really smart people who have built the back end. And this is what we've done so far. So as I said, our first integration was Mews, which was released a month and a half ago now. So we're very early on. We're very lucky to have some of our customers here in the audience today. So thank you for being part of the early journey. We have 15 properties live now. And the goal is to get to more than 100 at the end of the year, which we're tracking towards. So the next few things up are pushing prices live, which will happen this month. Channel management and rate shopping, which we honestly didn't want to do rate shopping, but you all want it, so we're going to do it. So here's our pricing, and here's how we charge hotels. £5,000 in setup fees, a 5-year contract, more than £10,000 per year. And then all of your staff who deal with revenue management have to come to our offices to be trained in how to use the solution. No, so I'm just kidding. So this is what revenue management used to look like. We think that's pretty crappy. We think it should be. We think the solution should give you immediate value, and if it doesn't, you should just stop using it. So we have a monthly commitment. Any month you don't want to use the solution anymore, you just tell us, you email us, and we'll stop charging you. And we have some really reasonable rates per month, because what we want to do right now is to build up a solid base of the first few hundred customers who can really help us validate what we're doing. And more importantly than the science, help us validate that we can build something that makes this usable. It shouldn't need to be so incredibly tedious and boring to do revenue management. It should be obvious from a machine what the solution is, what the answer is, and you can say, actually, I don't believe that, I'll do something different. But it should be more fun. Let me see if I have any bonus slides. I don't. So thank you very much. That's us, Prix.